I've freed myself from government control. I've declared my intent to create a new community based upon natural law, which is separate from their society. I've freed myself from all encumbrances with the government. They no longer send me any correspondence of any kind. Neither do any of the corporations, unless I want to do business with them. As grantor, trustee of the universal community of self-realization, which has no boundaries, it has no restrictions on entry. All you need to be is a sentient being consenting to natural law to live in cooperative unity with the rest of your community. Every single community that becomes a member of the Universal Trust is self-governing and autonomous within the system of natural law. And if you apply the condition of unconditional love to every single fiber of your being, and you give that without any expectation of reward to every being who you encounter, you will be living by the standards that we are reaching for within the trust. Because we believe within the trust that the only solution is that we create between ourselves a cooperative trade network which completely bypasses the finance system. Because let's face it, the main problems that we all encounter on a daily, if not hourly basis, are generally financial related. We have a government that pretends to protect our interests and our so-called security when all they do is hold us in a very low security open prison. Because if we don't do what they say, whenever they say it, they automatically construe that a crime has been committed because you didn't obey their authority. Therefore, what we have to understand is how this situation came about in order to understand how to construct the solution in entirely peaceful ways. Because it's been proven again and again and again, and it will always be so, that violence begets more violence. We've all got a different path to tread, but it comes down to the same thing: self-realization. Realizing who and what we really are and why we're here. So we want a community that is able to offer everything necessary to support a home education network where we all take responsibility for making sure that our children are free from programming of all descriptions. We are all capable of everything that we can imagine in consciousness. We are all capable of rising above the expectations that aren't our own. They're the ones that have been imposed upon us by a state that seeks to destroy who we are, to merge us into this. They call it a hive mind. That isn't the same thing as mass consciousness. The hive mind is where everybody buzzes on the same frequency and they lose their uniqueness and they forget about why they're really here. The only reason we're here is to take consciousness to the next level, is to stop the violence and end the wars and end all the suffering. And to do that, we have to understand that this land has been stolen from the indigenous peoples of these islands. And we have to remember that many of us here may have lived through that. And we came back for those reasons, to take the land back for the people, but not by force, by showing them something they won't show us. We forgive them, we give them unconditional love and compassion, and we say, we know that you're here to show us who and what we really are.
Take a group of consenting people from any walk of life, anywhere in the world. Replace the debt-based financial systems with a usury-free permanent credit facility, based upon the cooperative agreement of sovereign men and women to provide goods and services for everybody in their community free of charge, subject to mutually agreed individual needs and requirements and pursuant to a community trust agreement between each individual, the community, and its sovereign trustees. Anything that can't be provided within the community itself will be acquired from neighboring districts within the terms and conditions of cooperative trade agreements between communities. Everybody will have unlimited credit to acquire everything they need as long as they offer something back to their community on a permanent basis, an unconditional promise to pay in sweat equity. However, slaving 40 to 80 hours a week just to scrape together a basic existence in the service of fraudulent debts will naturally become a curiously disturbing relic from our recent past. Free men and women should contribute as much time, talent and energy as their community can reasonably require of them, even if that community begins and ends with their own family, rather than for a mandated time period, leaving the rest of their lives free for family and friendship, absorbing all knowledge worth knowing, creative endeavor, and most importantly, self-realization. The galvanizing framework for this community template is grounded in the fundamental principle of universal law. We are all free to do exactly as we choose, provided that the actions resulting from our decisions do not infringe the rights of any other blessed living soul. Or more simply put, my rights end where yours begin. Peace officers are cordially invited to become the defenders of each new community and the property held in perpetual and transient trust. Although the genuine possibility of peace, freedom, and abundance for all mankind will eventually eradicate what we now know as inequality and crime. Coercion is, by its very definition, always a destructive force. We must take individual responsibility for our actions, and in so doing, we will discover that we can never be truly free when we act under the apparent benefit privilege of corporatist state-controlled limited liability. Government, as we know it, will be dismantled and quickly replaced with benign administrations of each community trust, managed by a cooperative union of sovereign trustees, free from both corporate and political affiliations, as well as patronage, each of whom pledges their honesty, diligence, and integrity to the beneficiaries. The culture of privilege and elitism will disintegrate organically when all men and women are rightfully considered equals before the Creator of all that is. Mankind's relationships with itself have all too often been founded upon perceived social or financial status rather than genuine affection, love, and respect. The 8 bondages of the human heart, hatred, shame, grief, fear, condemnation, race prejudice, familial pride, and smugness, have affected all our lives to a certain degree, whether by direct or indirect means. Violence will never be part of the solution, no matter what some ego-driven and intellectually misguided pseudo-revolutionaries might proclaim. I humbly ask you all to look in your hearts and see that we must turn away from all actions that cause suffering to others, as well as those who are proposing that violent revolution can be justified in the court of conscience as long as the circumstances suit our purposes.
The universal trust is the umbrella trust. It's the grand trust. It's the one that protects every single community within the trust, because what we're going to do is acquire land in every place on this planet. And we are putting this together now. The Universal Community of Self-Realization and Trust Declaration. I, Freeman Michael John of Benicia, do hereby declare that the Universal Community of Self-Realization Trust has been formed for the purposes of granting to every beneficiary named under this declaration the benefit of permanent credit to acquire every item, whether naturally occurring or organically manufactured by the parties to the trust, as well as every service provided for the community, until such time that their immortal spirit leads them to other experiences. The Grantor's Covenant. By this declaration, made in the city of Nottingham on the 10th day of July in the Gregorian year known as 2010 AD, my person hereby covenants to guarantee payment of every verifiable liability of the Universal Community of Self-Realization Trust and its beneficiaries upon presentment of the appropriate documents to the sovereign trustees of the Permanent Credit Facility created today for the purposes of facilitating the acquisition of the necessary infrastructure of the Trust. Declared and signed by Freeman Michael John Benicia. And we need 2 witnesses who aren't going to be signing this document. So, would anyone like to volunteer as a witness? Yeah? Okay. What do you agree to? All you got to do is your signature and your name printed underneath.
Would you like to explain what the significance of that is?
Yes. Now this trust has been declared by deed a legal entity. This trust now guarantees each beneficiary, and each beneficiary means each community trust that's set up by the sovereign trustees will be a beneficiary of the universal trust, which I guarantee by a promise to pay any and all provable liabilities of those beneficiaries. We're looking for 100 people to start off each community, and there's no restriction on boundaries here. This is anywhere on the planet, anywhere in the universe, for that matter. Therefore, what each member of each community trust needs to do to become a member is to make a pledge to the community of their sweat equity, whatever that may comprise of, whatever they do. What we're talking about is you pledging your sweat equity to a trust that will, when everything is up and running, provide for everything that you need. Now, this isn't communism, just in case anyone's wondering. This is based upon the flip side of the community trust, and the flip side is the cooperative trade network. Everybody who is a member tenders into the network free of charge whatever good or service they provide for free. And for that purpose, they get every good and service for free within the network. And there's no boundaries, remember. And whatever it is that you do, you can pledge that in. Remember, all of this is not for profit. We are just looking to create the line of credit to acquire the infrastructure, the land, the machinery, the equipment, everything that we need to bring all this into fruition.
This is the way it works. The trustees and myself are willing to guarantee by a promissory note made payable to bearer, which is just as good as cash, in the words of Lord Denning, as I said earlier, we're going to guarantee every single provable debt of every beneficiary, that's everybody who steps over from this side of the line, which is what we have, the system of enslavement, to this one, which is everybody is free to do what they choose, provided they abide by the rules of natural law, which I've already stated. My rights end where yours begin. Just imagine what it's like if we all do what's in our heart, and it doesn't have to be for all of our lives. It's not a sentence. It's not something that we have to do because everyone has to do it. We have to find out what we feel we should do and then act on it. Now that might be within any community, hundreds of different things over a long period of time. You don't have to commit to anything except a pledge that when you're in this community, what you do is whatever it is that can benefit the community and benefit you at the same time by expressing what you want to. It's your donation, free from encumbrances, free from charges to your community, which includes you and your family. That doesn't mean you've got to work 40 to 80 hours a week. That means you only got to do whatever is necessary to maintain the community. So, let's just say that the reason why people are reluctant to step over to this side, even if they've let go of the fear, even if they're saying this is all very well, but how do I know that this will work? Well, we're setting up a prototype community right now. We're acquiring a piece of land, probably in this area of the country, because as I say, it has such a magical vibe, and a lot of people are already near this area, and the one common denominator within the group of people who are ready to do this now is that they have somehow freed themselves from responsibilities to the state or to an employer, and they're in a position where they can move to the next stage. They're just looking for like-minded people to do it with. Well, we're not even saying that every single community has to be the same, just those basic principles of natural law. Getting rid of financial transactions within the community is dependent upon one thing, and that is a cooperative trade network. What this means is everybody within the trust and all the communities who are beneficiaries of the trust, everybody gives for free whatever goods or services they provide for the community free of charge to get everything else free of charge. So you see, this is an exchange of your sweat equity for everything that you need or everything that you require to live a peaceful, happy, fulfilled existence. Knowledge within the community is shared openly, and it's stored that there'll be people within the community who will take the task of being the keepers of the knowledge, to preserve the knowledge and to extend the knowledge of the community for the benefit of everybody.